Gucci.
On Fleek.
On Fleek.
Extra.
Extra?
Yeah. It's like when somebody's being a little like too much. Like, why are you so extra? Oh, I didn't do it good. Sophia's going to be ticked if she hears that.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about.
Dude, you got to get in touch with the culture, bro.
I have a 7-year-old who's not there yet.
He's got OBJ hair. What are you talking about? He's there. You got to stop restraining him. He's a peacock. You got to let him fly.
That's true. Yeah. Well, welcome. This is How Stupid People Succeed. I'm Josh. This is Jeremy Dunn. And this is how two stupid people somehow figure things out in life. And today we're talking about one of my favorite sports, kind of.
Definitely a good example.
Yes. We're talking about golf-ish.
Golf, yes.
Great example.
Golf, yeah. Great example.
The Happy Gilmore.
If you're not a golf fan,
like Happy Gilmore,
hold on,
this is it.
Because you can apply this to your life.
Yes, but before they apply anything to their lives, they need to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all your podcast listening devices, and make sure you go to YouTube and hit the notifications button so when we drop a new video, you'll get a notification.
There you go. Ping.
Ping.
Now, I do have to cite a little bit of the influence from this particular conversation. Pastor Tom Toney in a recent message was talking about a little bit of this idea. And so I had to kind of take it and run with it because I loved the thought. But he was telling a story about when he was in high school and his basically claim to fame. And he can hit the ball country mile. He can legit smoke it. But his claim to fame was just hitting the ball really hard. But he would go up there and he tried to hit it as hard as possible, and the ball would just go every which direction. So in thinking about that, I was thinking about at times in life or in times in sports where we have the idea of maybe baseball, golf, whatever, hit the ball as hard as you can, right? If you're a female, maybe volleyball, maybe soccer, whatever the sport is, just hit the ball as hard as you can. And almost every time that is horrible advice when I convince myself a really good idea on the golf course is to try to hit the ball as hard as I can. Yeah. And so then I started applying it to business. So when we talk about the grind, because it's such a popular word now.
Gary V,
yeah. So we talk about the grind. When we talk about, and it was really funny because 5 years ago, 10 years, 5 years ago, whatever, it was like, I'll sleep when I die. And YOLO was like big things. And now all the scientific information has come out about sleeping. And now everybody in the media is like, I sleep 8 hours a day. Like, it's cool to sleep now, where before it was like, caught him slipping, right? And the big social media thing was take a picture of your friend asleep. But as I was thinking about that in life.
I'm so disconnected. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh my gosh, dude, where are you at? What do you do in your free time other than crush TVs in your golf simulator? Anyway, that's a sore subject, which you probably gripped it as hard as you can. And so since you're the residential golf professional we have on this show, unbelievable. I know. I'm sorry. That was a low blow. I'm sorry. But since you are a golf professional,
I'm not.
What happens when you try to, what's the term? Grip it and rip it.
Depends. If you're a professional golfer, you're an amateur.
For the vast majority of human beings in the world.
Vast majority of people, obviously for golf, because it's an easy example, it's, the harder you swing, you don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You don't know where the ball is going to go. So the art behind golf is you want to have a great tempo and you want to have a constant swing. Mm-hmm. And then when you're doing that, now, if you do it hard, obviously that's good. But normally when you go hard, you get in a wreck. So if you're going 140 miles an hour and you're, in your Ford Expedition down the road, there's a higher likelihood you're going to get in a wreck as opposed to you're going to 80 on the freeway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Why Ford Expedition?
I was just thinking of Nate Riddle driving 140. Don't
incriminate anybody. I just feel like you're telling like a real story.
No.
Oh, okay. That's not a real story. Okay.
No.
Good.
I mean, could be. Who knows? But the whole idea of, I love the movie Happy Gilmore. I love it because it's golf. It's funny. It's got Bob Barker in it, Adam Sandler. It's a funny movie.
Yeah.
But his whole thing was he's going to run up to the ball and he's just going to smash it. Now there are some people who can do that, but they do it obviously for fun if they're playing for an actual event or something like that. Obviously, they're not going to do that because, you know, all that movement, all that extra movement and all that energy exerted is going to influence and impact your swing.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, you can't consistently doing it. And, you know, so if you flip that over to the business side, obviously you want to hit home runs in business. You know, there's no doubt about it. But, you know, would you rather hit 90 doubles and strike out 10 times, or would you rather hit 10 home runs and strike out 90 times? You know, it's just, you know, Adam Dunn, you know, if you're, you know, Adam Dunn's a great example.
Unfortunately, of no relation.
Yeah, well, he used to play for the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah.
He's a left fielder. He's a big old boy from Texas.
Yeah.
Huge. And all he did was hit home runs and strike out.
Yeah. He was great in MLB.
Oh my God.
He was great in MLB.
Just home runs or strikeout. And, you know, and like, that's kind of like, he was going for the gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that it? Just going for the gold?
Yeah, he was going for the gold.
Good transition.
Yeah.
Or are you still talking?
No. I might have had another stroke. Why did I stop talking?
Huh? What about Dunn Adam and the run homes?
But, you know, so going through, you know, there's one or two alternatives, you know, especially in the business or the real world, you know, aspect of it, or, you know, just kind of trying to relate it to the real world. Is just, you know, you go for a home run or you strike out, or are you okay with hitting a couple singles and a couple doubles? You know, so in your life, how, because everybody wants to, at least at some point, they're in a time of life where they just want to go big.
Yeah.
They just want to go for home runs and nothing else.
Yeah.
They got that big Hail Mary. It's got the Doug Flutie.
Yeah.
They're throwing it in the end zone, and we're going to hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in talking with some people that I know that are either good golfers or good baseball players, the best shots or the best hits they've ever had have always felt effortless. That's one of the things that almost like the contact with the ball didn't even enter their conscious reality. They saw it, their body started reacting, and it was this fluid, easy motion, and they look up and all of a sudden there's, you know, magic happening. I definitely understand this a little bit more with the relationship with football, is understanding that a lot of the hardest hits you see this incredibly violent impact. There's times because of the adrenaline or the form or the way it was done that stuff just felt effortless. It was like you just blew somebody up and you just felt like you were just swimming in warm water almost. You know what I mean? And so when you think about your life and you think about the grind and you think about what happens when you try to like grip it and rip it, what came to my mind was the idea of tension and stress. Yeah. So it's the idea of like, I'm gonna go, you know, I'm gonna go, man. And you start gritting and you start creating the tension and you start creating the stress. And anybody that understands anything about physical activity will tell you that's the worst thing to do. That's how you create injury. And when you see people going through the grind, I think it's one of the big things that leads to burnout. So people struggle with burnout in their career, or they struggle with maybe not hitting a goal within a time frame they thought, and they start losing hope. So then they start, you know what I mean? And that idea of the tension and the stress, and then it becomes a part of what everybody else is reading in that person. So if you think about just the physical nature of it, it's impossible to hold tension and stress and breathe appropriately, function appropriately, move appropriately, see appropriately, think appropriately. And when I was listening to this and I was thinking about it, I started thinking about that connection of the mistakes I've made in my career. Where it's like,
you've made some?
Yeah, lots, plenty. But it's the idea of, okay, now we're just going to muscle through it. And at times I feel like that's like the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get anywhere. So it's the same way of what leads to injury when, you know, like when we work out, right? Maybe there's a weight that's frustrating us or a movement that's frustrating us. The worst thing we can do is look at that and go, well, I'm just going to do it. And then we grab it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, my knee kind of hurts, my arm kind of hurts, you know, whatever it may be.
I would say sometimes that's okay though. I mean, because if you understand, okay.
Here's what I will say. The biggest hit in your life, the biggest success in your life won't come from you carrying tension and stress.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. But you think about somebody like Tiger Woods.
Yes.
Okay. Tiger Woods is arguably one of the best golfers ever.
Yes.
And there was a time in his life where no one swung the club harder than Tiger Woods, but yet he was still the best.
Yeah.
But he had the practice.
Yes.
He had the dedication. He had the muscle memory. He had everything that he needed to make sure that hard swing was going where it needed to go. And, he understood everything about the mechanics of the swing. So he understood hand position, hips, legs, knees, feet, all that stuff. But yet, and that's a great example because you have those people like the LeBron James or, those people that are just gifted so much that can excel at a height that nobody literally has ever done in the entire history of the human population.
Yeah.
But then again, you have people like, like your average, your average golfer or your average NBA player or your average baseball player. They can do all the same things. They can try to do it, but they can't pull off I'm going to swing as hard as I can and just crush it.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have it. And a lot of us, especially in life or in business, we see that and we try to go after that. And like, I can't tell you how many times. So there's a shot that Tiger Woods hit at the Memorial. It was on the 16th green. He was high and right. It was on a downhill slope. Pin was in the back. Impossible shot. And yet Tiger Woods, he hit a flop shot, trickled down, drained it. Unbelievable shot. Like I can't tell you how many times I've tried that shot.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah. Because it's meta-human.
Right.
I mean, he's an Avenger.
Yeah.
Being able to pull something like that off.
Right.
And so like we strive for those things and we think it's possible, but in reality, our physical capacity does not allow it, or even our mental capacity.
Yes.
Because some people would argue somebody like Tiger Woods, he was on the top of his game because of his mental game. He had people beat before he even took the course.
Yeah. Well, think about how many, in a series or an event or whatever, when it's coming down to the last, hole 15, 16, 17, 18 in that final round, if he was even in the hunt, guys weren't even concerned about who's in second.
No.
Where's Tiger?
Yeah.
Where's Tiger? But you also think about the hours to develop that muscle memory to almost be in a place that you can kind of just let it go. Right. So I know that I've practiced enough, I've done enough, I've rehearsed enough that in this moment I can just let it go.
Yeah.
I can kind of just let it fly in a little bit, which is also the opposite of carrying tension and stress.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've been here so much that I can just fully let this go. I can let this motion fly as much as I want to let it fly. And hopefully something positive comes of it. Yeah. But again, it's not my every day thing. Yeah. It's one of 1,000 swings.
Yeah.
It's one of 500 swings versus the grind. And that's a little bit of what stuck out to me is we get so caught up in the grind or wanting to see change or trying to accomplish something. And we get burnt out because we're not seeing that success. But a big part of why we're not seeing that success is we could be cutting off our own oxygen.
Yeah.
We could be cutting off our own creativity to step back and go, okay, how do I fix this problem? There was a business situation I was in, and I was really trying to figure out, there was a lot of pressure around the conversation that was coming up. And basically I was about to get on the phone with somebody that I had no business being on the phone with. A pretty significant hedge fund manager that was basically going to read me the riot act because I had messed up. And I did a lot of research and basically found out where what I did was actually correct and where those errors were to then educate him and the relationship manager on where that happened. And I was freaking out and I was really struggling with that conversation. And because I was intimidated by the environment, or the conversation or the person, I was letting that tension and stress get to me, and I was losing focus of the correct answer. Thankfully, in a very short period of time, I was able to step back and kind of let go of that. I said, okay, forget all that. What's the truth here? What's the reality here? And I was able to arrive at a pretty cool solution that then after about a 30-minute phone call of me and this guy going back and forth, he kind of stopped and it's kind of a funny, very atypical conversation, very stereotypical, New York hotshot, had a little bit of the accent, had the ego. He's, screaming and cussing at me the whole time. I got to be the little peon that's kind of like taking it, but okay, sir, but what about this? Okay, sir, but have you, and all that. And after about 30 minutes, he just goes, I see what you're saying. You are right. Thanks for catching that mistake. I'll talk to you later. Bye. So it's like the half hour getting cussed at and yelled at, and I get like a 5-second thank you and hang up. And then after he hung up, the other relationship manager that was on the phone comes over to where I sat in the office and just said, I have no idea how you did that, but that was I've never heard anybody be able to talk to him that way or talk sense into him that way. But it didn't come from being constrained, or it didn't come from stressing out. It didn't come from being blind by the environment of the decision or the option I had in front of me. It came from that position of, okay, get back to the fundamentals, get back to the basics. And even in the grind, so you talk about Tiger's grind is at 6 a.m. on the driving range. And that's what people don't see. They think their grind is the shot he took and they can duplicate that. No, the real grind is just almost like not passive is maybe the wrong word, but this incredible consistent example of you putting yourself in a position so that way the stress and the tension is it can't get to you. In a way. So in your life, when you've been there, how do you try to let go of the stress and tension so it doesn't become distracting from you being successful?
There's, depends on the area of life that you're talking about. So like if you talk about business, for instance, like I practice business every day. Mm-hmm. And so, like the old adage is, practice makes perfect. I had a high school coach tell me once, and it's always stuck with me. It's not practice that makes perfect. It's perfect practice that makes perfect. Mm-hmm. And so being able to hone in on what you're doing, with the idea of, like I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Obviously we're all, we're going to fall short, but there are some days where you can pull off that shot and you can make it.
Yeah.
So if we're not putting in the work to hone in our craft, whether it's job, business, family, church, friendships, whatever it is, if we're not doing that consistently and seeing the outcomes that we want, then we need to reflect, because if we're looking at the ultimate outcome as the goal, as the big hurrah, if we're not hitting the mark that we want to hit, obviously we need to reflect and adjust what we're doing.
Yeah.
And doing that isn't always the easiest thing in the world, because when you work outside your comfort zone, so when you swing hard and you try to hit the ball hard, that's abnormal. But the more you do it and the more you do it well, the easier it's going to be.
Yes.
And the more effective you're going to be doing that. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure, like I played in golf outings where they've done the Happy Gilmore, like I'm going to run up and smash the ball.
Yeah.
I've seen countless people miss the ball.
Yeah.
But I also seen people just smash it.
Right.
But also they just didn't do it one time and figure it out.
Yeah.
They did it time after time after time because they wanted to put on a good show at a golf outing.
Well, and at the golf outing, they probably had some liquid lube that helped remove the tension and the stress of that moment.
Boy, is that true.
It was super relaxed and flexible in that moment.
That's very, very true. So it's definitely great stuff that that you really don't think about.
Right.
It's just like I'm going to go so hard, I'm going to figure it out. And it's not always the case.
And when you find yourself there, you have to find a way to breathe.
Yeah. You have to know your limits.
And get rid of the stress and the tension. Yeah. And sometimes that can look incredibly counterintuitive, like, I really need to grind, or I really need to, and sometimes it looks like actually the best thing for me is probably take a deep breath.
Go to bed at 8:00.
Yeah. Go to bed early, catch up on my sleep, do something different, right? Walk, be outside, whatever causes that shift for you. Don't be afraid to make that part of your mix, because that's what's going to help you the most to be creative and thinking about a solution.
100%. Absolutely. Cool. Well, this wraps up another podcast, I believe.
Yeah.
of How Stupid People Succeed. I'm Josh. This is Jeremy, and this is a podcast of how two stupid people figure things out in life for the most part.
For the most part.
Make sure you like us on Facebook, YouTube, podcast, all the podcast channels like in iTunes, Spotify,
Everywhere.
iHeartRadio. I didn't know that.
iHeartRadio. Wow.
It's a great one. So make sure you go to Facebook and YouTube and make sure you hit the notifications tab, the little bell up there, so you can get notifications when we drop a new podcast, which is today. So make sure you get tomorrow's, right?
Or the next day. I don't know.
Or the next
It depends
day.
on when this drops.
Yeah, 3 or 4 week, 4 week.
Sometime. Just do it anyway.
Yeah. Just do it so you know, so you don't have to guess. Take care, guys.